The expansive mouth of Kenya's Kitum Cave can appear out of nowhere. Mount Elgon National Park's jutting landscape, coupled with a dense cover of lush green plant life, conceals the cave surprisingly well from human wanderers, until they're right on top of it. Animals, however, have no problem finding Kitum. When the Kitum Cave was first discovered, the many marks, scratches and furrows along its walls were assumed to have been the work of picks wielded by ancient Egyptians searching for gold, diamonds. In fact, the excavated sections of the cave are the result of something much more unusual. Kitum Cave is, in fact, a petrified rainforest. 7 million years ago, the volcanic Mount Elgon erupted and buried the surrounding rainforest in ash. Kitum is deep within what was once a molten sea. Mineralized logs jut out of the cave walls, all sorts of bones from animals like crocodiles, hippos and elephants. It's an eerily beautiful sight to behold. The cave, which extends some 600-700 feet into the mountain, has walls that are rich in salt, and it's here that the mysterious cave diggers reveal themselves. Each night, for hundreds, possibly thousands of years, animals have travelled into the cave in the dead of night to use it as a giant salt lick. Buffaloes, antelope, leopards, hyenas, and most of all elephants, bumble blindly through the cave, making their way to the salty walls. And it was the elephants that had done all the digging. The large pachyderms shelter within the 600-700 foot cave system and seek out the walls as a surprising snack. Using their hardened ivory tusks, the elephants dislodge stones from the cave wall, grind them into bits with their teeth, and suck up the stores of salt within. So over the centuries, this has resulted in a notable increase in the size of the cave, as well as the walls being covered in tusk marks. And a trip into the further depths of the cave isn't without its dangers, however. There's a deep crevasse into which the bones of younger and likely more inexperienced elephants have been found, having fallen into this crevasse, leaving behind a kind of elephant graveyard, for want of a better word. But in 1980, the Kitum Cave became famous for a very different sort of life form. In 1980, a 56-year-old Frenchman living in Kenya entered Kitum Cave and may have been entranced by its beauty, likely was entranced by its beauty and the mystery that was held on those walls. After a few hours of exploration, he left spellbound and in awe of what he'd just seen. But something evil left with him. 7 days later, the headache started. Fever, non-stop vomiting, diarrhea arrived 3 days after that. And then the Frenchman's face became droopy and lifeless, and his skin turned yellow. His whole personality changed. Friends helped him board a plane so he could go to a hospital in neighbouring Nairobi. On board, continued vomiting, and it was noticed and reported that he was heaving up a black, thick liquid. He filled up a couple of bath bags with this black ooze, and then his nose started bleeding, and it wouldn't stop. When the plane landed, he stumbled off in a stupor, found the nearest taxi and mumbled the words Nairobi Hospital to the driver. The taxi driver was kind enough to help the Frenchman into the hospital when they arrived and made it very plain to the attending nurse that this man was in dire need of help, and assurances were made that the doctor would see him promptly. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that it was already too late. While sitting in the waiting room, the Frenchman suddenly leaned over and vomited up an immense quantity of blood and then fell unconscious. Blood began to seep from every orifice and creep along the floor. The evil entity that originated in Kitum Cave had destroyed its host, and now it was leaving its mangled corporeal home in search of a fresh one. The entity that had infected the Frenchman is called Marburg. 7 years later, however, Marburg reared its gruesome head again, infecting and killing a young Danish boy in Africa. When it was discovered that the boy had visited Kitum Cave with his family 11 days before his death, investigators decided they had to pay the site a visit. A filovirus like Ebola, Marburg's symptoms are identical to those of its more notorious sibling. Genetic differences distinguish between the two, however. To date, there have been 467 documented cases of Marburg, resulting in 377 deaths. That's a kill rate of about 80.7%. For reference, the mortality rate of the recent Ebola epidemic in Sierra Leone and surrounding countries was around 50%. Now, the death of the Frenchman was a landmark case for the scientific study of Marburg. Not only was it the first time that Marburg had surfaced since 1975, when it infected 3 people in South Africa, but it also allowed investigators to try and nail down the source of the infection. The investigation proved difficult. In spring 1998, a joint US and Kenyan operation led by the United States Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, Gene Johnson, began. Decked out in full biohazard gear, the team members scoured the cave, capturing bats, spiders, birds, sampling bat guano, bat feces, elephant feces, scraping slime off the walls. At first, Johnson was sure he'd come home with one of nature's most ancient and proficient killers. But when all was said and done, he left empty-handed. If Marburg lurked in Kitum Cave, it had vanished without a trace. Scientists still aren't precisely certain how the Ebola strain that terrorized Western Africa recently made the leap into humans. Ebola and its sibling Marburg are as mysterious as they are insidious. Scientists also don't know where the virus's unknown hosts live, but most cases of Ebola trace back to the region around Mount Elgon, that extinct volcano on the border of Kenya and Uganda, not far from Sudan. The mountain is an ecological rarity after all. However, many years later, a caver in neighbouring Uganda would divulge some of Marburg's secrets. In the wake of an outbreak amongst miners working at Kitum Cave, scientists detected the virus in local Egyptian fruit bats, the same species of bat that occasionally shacked up in Kitum. The researchers estimated that 5% of the 100,000 animal colony at Kitum were infected, and it was the first time that hard data implicated bats as a major natural reserve of the virus. In September 2007, similar expeditions to active mines in the Gambian and Uganda found solid evidence of reservoirs of Marburg in cave-dwelling Egyptian fruit bats. The Ugandan mines both had colonies of the same species of African fruit bats that colonised Kitum Cave, suggesting that the long-sought vector at Kitum was indeed the bats and their guano. The study was conducted after 2 mine workers contracted Marburg in August 2007, both without being bitten by any bats, suggesting that the virus may actually be propagated through the inhalation of powdered guano, the inhalation of powdered bat poo. Specifically, a few cases have traced back to Kitum Cave, a massive cave 8,000 feet up the eastern side of the mountain, slightly higher than the entrance to the main part of Kitum Cave. Kitum Cave is the perfect environment for Ebola to develop, for a few reasons. Firstly, Kitum Cave is unusually dry and dusty, where the ideal conditions for a virus exist. Viruses generally don't last that long in sunny, moist environments, but in dry, dark places, they can lie dormant for long periods of time, just waiting to find a host. Most caves are carved by water, so they'd be too damp for viruses to thrive. But scientists believe that the elephants who visit the cave and have visited the cave for hundreds, thousands of years in search of salt in the walls, incessantly scratching at the rocks with their tusks, may have loosened debris which inherently held some of this virus, therefore aerosolizing it into the environment. Second, myriad animals, big and small, monkeys, leopard, rats, shrews, frequent the cave. There's a lot of interspecies traffic, and the enclosed space created prime conditions for a virus to jump species. Most of the time, Ebola and its related viruses remain in hiding. But when the viruses have emerged, they devastate villages and occasionally cities in other countries and continents, as we've seen. Now, to Ebola experts, Mount Elgon and Kitum Cave represent the centre of a mystery that's called Ebola. Somewhere within that cave lurks the host of the virus, the animal that doesn't become ill with the disease, but is able to infect other species with it. As a location filled with both beauty and danger in equal measure, the cave marks the contradictory essence of nature. No matter how extensively humans explore Kitum Cave, they will never find the source of Ebola. Similarly, no matter how long humans research the inner workings of nature, we will never unlock all of its secrets. There is only one fact, and one fact alone. Everything else is just a lie, and lies don't survive the darkness and the deepness of Kitum Cave.